start the show. The Good Life with DT. It's Nicole. Welcome to the Good Life.
You are now listening to the Good Life Podcast.
Good Life. Good Life. These boys are crazy.
You are now listening to the Good Life Podcast.
Good Life. What?
Hey, welcome to the Good Life Podcast. My name is David Taylor.
And it's Spicoli. What's popping?
What's going on, man? Hey, today's guest, man, doesn't need much of an introduction. We're gonna give him one anyways, man. He deserves it, man. He's been in the music scene for years and years and years. A lot of you guys are probably gonna know him from his cover. He's old.
Say his name.
That's his voice, man. Yeah, probably know him from his big cover, from his old band Bad Wolves, man. We got Tommy Vext on the podcast today.
Can't you see the walls inside your head? Telling you you're better off yourself. Cheating on your dad, your friends tonight. Against all the
Hey, what's up, man? How are you, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. You know, just running around, handling things. You know, had a good workout. Push some weight up. Oh, drop. What did I do? I basically was telling you guys before we got on that I'm basically running my own record label out of my house and my garage. So I had to drop off a bunch of things to get shipped out. But yeah, we're rocking and rolling, dude. So we're
What's your record label called?
It's 1A Records, which is First Amendment Records, which is, if you don't know what that is, I highly recommend you look it up.
What does that mean? I have no idea.
The first,
What?
You don't know the Constitution, bro? What?
Come on, help me out. What? No.
Freedom of speech, bro. Freedom of speech.
Oh my goodness. I was telling Jason, man, yesterday, I was like, this dude literally just like hit me up and was like, sorry, I'm hitting you back so late. I had a really late night with Zoltan, man. And I'm like, from Five Finger? And you're like, yeah. I'm like,
Oh,
this
yeah.
is normal.
Well, he's a night owl, dude. That guy's up. He works all hours of the night. And so we wound up, we got dinner, and then, you know, we get tea. And then we just strategize. And, you know, I'm grateful. Like, a couple of things happened. You know, when I got very politically outspoken in 2020, everybody was like, ooh, like, oh shit, you know, they could see the hammer coming down on me. But you had a lot of these guys who were behind the scenes, believed in the message and supported. Yeah. Like, you know, I think things in our country got split really badly between political parties, but a lot of the issues that we were faced with are not partisan issues. They're human rights issues.
I was going to ask you about that. I didn't know if you were going to get into this or not, but since you did, I did, you know, I've seen things online about people who, you know, were like, we're done with Tommy and this and that. Have a lot of those relationships been mended now? Because I think I saw like some stuff with some people you were with. There's and stuff.
So Ivan called me a couple months ago, and he, you know, when he turned 5 years sober, and we actually wound up recording a song together with Chavo from System of a Down and Logan from Machine Head, and then the label was like, we don't want you doing songs with Tommy, like that, you know. And obviously I sued the label, and you know, I'm not allowed to say that I won legally, but this is a very nice house I have here.
Look at you. Look at that smile too, dude.
MTV Cribs coming through, bro. Yeah, you seem a lot happier. I'll say that.
Yeah, but so life's all right. And but there's always gonna be, you know, it's one of those things. It's like when you know, and I'm grateful that my boy's back in my life, and then, you know, obviously, like, me and Chris always stay cool, and then, you know, me and Zoe have been, you know, talking again, and I just saw them in Denver, and then we had a meeting here, and you know, even Chris from Bad Wolves, Chris quit Bad Wolves about 4 shows in. He came and he was like, he apologized to me. We hugged it out. You know, we're working on stuff together.
That's so, man.
Yeah, there was a lot, you know, and I think the problem with, I think Bad Wolves would have been okay if they would have got the right singer. And there was a time where people may forget this. There was a time where we had an amicable split. Originally, I was going to take the songs that I wrote and recorded, the originals and the covers, and I was going to take my bowl and go home. And the plan was for me to go to another record label. And I had actually already set that up. Once I left, when we announced that I left, I set up a GoFundMe to pay for the studio bills, and I raised $192,000.
Dude, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I saw that. That is crazy.
So that triggered a domino effect where I think the label realized they bet on the wrong horse, and the band realized, oh fuck, and they also had to look at the fact that during COVID, I went in the studio and recorded 45 songs. So basically, that caused the problem. And then they were like, we're not going to give you your songs. And I was like, well, you have to give me my songs. This was the deal. Like, well, we didn't sign anything. And so we went back and forth pretty sort of amicably. They were kind of bullying me until I got like a real deal lawyer. And then that kind of caused everything to fucking explode. And then it was like a shit show. So it just got ugly, and it's unfortunate. And if I had a time machine, what I would have done different is I would have got the deal. I would have had the deal written out and signed by everyone before I announced I was leaving.
So does the record label own all of the lyrics and everything that you wrote before on those albums, the Bad Wolf one?
So the way that it works is the period of which you sign with the label, what I create, they have first dibs on, right? So they can pass on stuff, but they have first right of refusal on artwork to go on albums for them to sell, and that's the deal. Now, when we talked about, originally they told me I was canceled, but again, I just had my first single as a solo artist go top 40 at Active Rock Radio in America.
Congratulations on that, by the way, man.
Yeah, I charted on Billboard 5 times in the last year, right? So I was number 4, number 10, number 17, number 20, and I had 2 17s on Billboard. So that was just off TikTok and social media, right? So like the selling power never changed.
Right.
And I think that there was a lot of resentment because I think they cooked up a plan, and it was like I was the only sort of, and I don't consider myself a conservative or far right at all. I just think I'm center right.
You said something earlier, man, that I've actually talked to Spicoli about many times, and other people on the podcast. It's kind of about when bands switch out a lead singer, man, especially with such a defined voice. Do you know what I mean? There was a quote by somebody who said something about you and how like you were upset because you couldn't sell as a solo artist, and they were wrong for sure, because you are destroying it right now, man.
Say what you want, but I mean, everybody definitely has their opinion, and you stand for something. You stand up for your beliefs, and there's a lot of artists that do the same thing, that they stand up for something, like Sinead O'Connor, who just passed away, unfortunately. Like she stood for something. Like she always stood for something, and I kind of like see that in you as well. Like you stand for something and you stick by it, and that's who you are, and that's who she was. So I see a lot of similarities in both.
I mean, I think Sinead was like that. I think that, I think Dolores was like that. People might forget the song Zombie is actually a protest anthem about the IRA bombing in Warrington, England, that killed factory workers and 2 little boys, right? So like that song in and of itself was born from someone standing up and saying these people's actions don't represent me or my family.
I do want to switch gears on something. First of all,
Sure.
Vext. I didn't know that came from Wu-Tang, man. I just read that today. That's so
yeah,
dope,
yeah.
dude.
Yeah, that's the mystery of chess boxing.
I read that today and I was like, dude, that is so dope. I was like, what the hell, man?
Well, when I was 14, I was in a band. I think our first band was called Dogs of War, and then there was already a punk band around called that. So then we changed it to Maniacal Disciple, which was like even more crazy, Again, like talking about a bunch of teenage kids who like love Metallica and like, and hardcore and Pantera and new metal when new metal was new still, it wasn't even, they hadn't even come up with the term new metal yet. And then eventually it turned into Vext. And then there was, like I grew up in South Brooklyn, so people just nickname you. So they just were like, there was like 3 Tommies, in the scene. They're like, Tommy Vext, and then that was it. So that was it.
That's crazy. And I read so did you ever, I was reading all the bands you've been in, dude, because I didn't realize you had been in that many. Oh my God. You've been in some pretty heavy bands. And I read that you used to freestyle battle a lot too, huh?
Yeah, I mean, when we were kids, we used to that was like, we would talk shit and like you'd have to try to diss people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On the spot. You know what I mean? Well, that was just the thing. Like, it was,
I'm kind of curious if you could freestyle something off the top of your dome still. You still got it in you?
I don't think so, bro. Sometimes, I still do, like, I'll call one of my friends and, like, leave a voice message, and I'll just be like, yo, it's me. I came to, like, I'll just do that whole thing. And there's, my closest friends have these dumbass, call me back at the beep, But I'm a fucking weirdo. So I can't leave a regular voice message,
Why
Was
did
there
I
ever
just
a
see you
time-
go Wu-Tang on that, though? You were just
Yeah,
like, yo,
right.
I'm about to spin and watch what I hit.
It's because I'm black, bro. This shit is just we're made like this. We got some gifts, you know what I mean?
So I want to get into the covers you've done, but I guess let's start with Zombie, man. I mean, dude, when you did that, I mean, did you? It's gonna sound like a cliche question, but did you know like how big that was gonna get? I mean, did you have an idea, or were you big at doing covers?
No. So here's the thing, like that. So Zombie was not even, no one in Bad Wolves played on Zombie at all, and Zombie was originally recorded in 2017 or 2016. Yeah, I had to change it because it was 2016. And I had to go in, and I remember having to record 2018 before we sent it to Dolores.
That's right, yeah.
My friend Philip Naslin, who we were both sober coaches, so I spent a lot of time sober coaching people, helping them get sober, and that's how me and Philip met because we had a musician client, and he was a guitar teacher for this client, and he was also he's a Swedish producer. So I was like, I was recording Westfield Massacre stuff, and then I was doing side projects. So I was just being creative. And then I originally, the first song that me and Philip did was Heart Shaped Box by Nirvana, which came out in 2015, I think.
Wow.
With Westfield Massacre. It was just a side song. And then we did Zombie, and then the band. So basically, that was sitting. And then in 2017, John Berkland hit me up and asked if I could sing in his band. Or actually, he didn't ask if I could sing in his band. He sent me a song, and he was like, yo, can you write something over this? And so it was Learn to Live. And he did that song with Diego from Volumes. It was slightly different. The guitar patterns were not on the one. So I took the files, went to the studio with Joseph McQueen, sang the chorus first, and then turned the guitars off and put a drum beat, and then I just rapped, slave away, it's just another day without marrying, blue today, that whole thing. And then I took the files of the guitar, and I took the notes out, each one. So it was like, and I sent it back, and John called me, he's like, bro, what is this? I'm like, I was like, it's sick, right? He's like, bro, he's like, I have a whole album of this stuff. And I was like, send it over. So then I went in the studio and I recorded a song a day. So we did all those songs. And then April of 2017, I get a text from Zoltan, and I've known Five Finger. Me and Ivan I've been sober 14 years. Ivan and I used to drink together. That's how long.
Really?
Yeah, that's how long.
Oh, man.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we were part of that old Hollywood scene because Divine Heresy in this moment and Five Finger all kind of launched around the same time. So we, obviously Divine Heresy, me and Dino didn't get along. We fucking that broke up. Then in this moment when did their thing, Five Finger took off immediately. So Zoe basically hit me up, and I flew to Vegas. I met with the guys. They knew I was a sober coach because I had worked with Justin Bieber. So my name in the sober community went really high up and around the top circles.
Did you say you work with Bieber?
Yeah, I lived with him for a month. I got him through his.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's not. I've worked with a lot of celebrities. Like when I joined Bad Wolves, I was already making about $350,000 to $400,000 a year. because
Wow.
I was getting paid like $3,000 a day to live with people.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Up in the castle, evil mischief stirs.
Plan number 42. I shall turn myself into a cat and get adopted by the butcher's daughter so I can learn all her secrets. Then, I will use them to make her fall in love with me. What do you think, Wilson?
Hey, check out 1v1 Me DM on all podcast platforms to see more of Dracula's perfect plans at finding true love.
So,
Did you take a pay cut joining Bad Wolves?
yeah. Dude, it's not, bro, the first year Bad Wolves was out, I made $37,000 from Bad Wolves.
This is like the sequel to Adrian's interview, man.
Yeah.
Right, dude.
Adrian went into this kind of stuff pretty hard too, man. So
Yeah.
About the record labels just robbing
Well,
you.
it's like, it's a couple of things. I definitely, like, I would have made millions if I didn't donate all of the proceeds from my royalties to Dolores' family. And that was the right thing to do.
Oh wow. That's
You know what I
awesome.
mean? So I forfeit
Right.
all that money. To this day, her children are the benefactors of my work. So that was my agreement. So anyway, I did the 5-finger thing. I was supposed to help Ivan stay out of trouble. And then eventually, like, you know, you guys saw the meltdown happen in Tilburg, and I had to step and then I had to step in. So I finished out the tour. I had no idea that this would happen. Like, I went from trying to help the guy get sober to being like, yo, you have to sing in 2 days. And I'm like, what? Like, you know, and so the first show I did in Austria was like 150,000 people. You know, we went on after Steel Panther. We were headlining that night at Nova Rock. And, you know, I ran into Michael Starr from Steel Panther, and I used to do security for when they were middle school. I was a security guard at the Key Club, so I've known those guys forever. And he's like, dude, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm with 5-Finger. He's like, oh, that's sick. You're bouncing for 5-Finger? I was like,
I'm singing.
not really. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, bro, I need to talk to you. So like we're both men of God, and so he prayed for me, and I was like, okay,
awesome.
like, all right. I'm like, God, please help me do a good job. And I had cue cards I had written all the words down on, and I'm like listening for like hours, just like, oh my God, I'm like, there's no way you could possibly prepare for this. And then this is the other thing that's fucking, dude, Ivan is one of the most charismatic rock performers. Like, it's like Ivan and Corey Taylor are like those are, you know, you can't not watch them when they're doing their thing. I don't care if you like the bands or not. There's a reason why these dudes are larger than life, right? Like, you have there's like a Phil Anselmo, a younger Phil Anselmo vibe going on with those guys, or even Jonathan Davis or Fred Durst. And like, there's a certain level where not that many people exist. They just don't exist. So I had to do that. And
How'd it go?
I crushed it. But
Yeah, I was gonna say, dude, there's not a better. I mean, honestly, with the way your voice sounds and your stage presence, man, I couldn't think of a better person to fill in for Ivan, to be honest with you.
well, it's 20 years of shows and being prepared. You know, life prepares you. And then, you know, it's like their front of house guy, Bruce Ryder, he's been in the business forever, and he's just like, hey, don't suck. And I was like,
Noted.
150,000 people don't suck.
Let me ask you this, though. Did you have a teleprompter, or did you have everything memorized?
no, I had it memorized. I would have loved a teleprompter, but a teleprompter was not available for me for a lowly.
And you knocked out the whole set. You did 15, 20 songs?
We did an hour and 15 minutes. I don't remember how many songs. And then
That's a lot.
Because the show at Tilburg had gone so sideways, me and Zoe decided we're going to go back and do a free show. And then the news came, and they publicly broadcast the entire show to the whole Netherlands.
Wow.
And that was the longest 5-Finger show that's ever been played in the history of the band, because we did 2 hours. So I went in and I went to all their old tours, and I was like, yo, let's play these songs too. And they're like, you want to play more songs? I'm like, yeah, we got to make it right here. because all these people were so pissed that they only got 4 songs and then everyone was sent home. So we came back, we honored everyone's tickets. People who couldn't make it, I mean, people flew from Russia. Like, people heard about this. And again, I'm from like death metal and metalcore.
Yeah.
Like, this is some next level shit, you know? So, but needless to say, it went off without a hitch. And then as a result, I got offered a record deal from their label, and I was singing in 2 bands. And I was in Westville Massacre, and I was singing for Bad Wolves before it was called Bad Wolves. Like, we were still, it was a side project. And the guys in Westville Massacre thought I was going to quit the band, so they kicked me off all the social medias and tried to steal the name. But again, same thing. None of them played on the records. The first Westville Massacre record was written by me, Tim from Divine Heresy and Morbid Angel, and Bill from Trans-Siberian Orchestra. And those guys were hired guns. So I've been people are like, oh, you've been out of this band. I'm like, I'm a solo artist.
Yeah.
I hire people I want to work with, and I put everything together. And it comes as the semblance of a band, but it's not a band. It's 9 Inch Nails. It's just me. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's crazy, man.
They pulled that, and then we had, they basically, my lawyers reached out to them, and we settled before going to court, and they paid me $20,000 for the name, which is like what I hadn't recouped yet. And so I was like, all right, cool, all good. And then Bad Wolves got the record deal by default. So we turned in the Bad Wolf songs to the label, and the label was like, bro, like, this is not, they're like, you don't have one hit song on here. You're a metal band. And I was like, well, I have these other songs, and one of them was Zombie. And then the whole label loved it. And then what people don't know is, so I went in the studio and I wrote this song called Remember When with Drew Falk.
Dude. Yeah.
Well, so the people who wrote that was me and Drew and Zoltan.
Really?
Wow.
And that's the reason, and that was our second biggest hit. And I recorded the vocals for that song in Stockholm, Sweden at Purple Skull Studios on a day off when I was out with Five Finger and In Flames. And and Philip, it was like Philip who did Zombies' cousin, Christoph, let me come into the studio and track the vocals after we had all the music done.
So your voice sounded clean on that too, and like you couldn't tell like you were, doing shows and then you just went into a random studio.
Yeah.
I remember playing all those songs on the radio and people like, I remember playing Zombie the first time. People like, who is this? Right. Where did they come from? And I was like, dude, that's Tommy Vext and Bad Wolves. And they're like, Tommy Vext, how do I know that name? And people were just, it was like a whole new awakening for you.
Yeah.
And did you feel that? Did you feel like just this big boom?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, I listened to Billy Corgan's interview with Joe Rogan not too long ago, and he actually really put my experience into words in a very poignant manner. And what I experienced is, not only was I the main contributor of all the hit songs, I was the face of the band. I had already done a stint I did a tenure with Five Finger. And then even when Ivan came back to sing, he brought me out on stage with them every night on tour to sing one song to thank me for holding it down. So Five Finger made me famous before Zombie. And when Zombie came out, I became like a household name. That song was the biggest song in I don't know how many years, more than a decade.
Oh,
it was the biggest. It's the biggest song that record label has ever had in their entire career as a record label, right? And then
let me ask you this: was that your greatest accomplishment, or
no? My greatest accomplishment, as far as releasing music, was the decision to when Dolores passed away. We almost didn't release the song, and from an ethical standpoint, and somebody who's in recovery, like literally, God just was like told me, and I told them, and we had a meeting, and I was, ultimately it was up to me if the song was going to get released or not, because in our contract I have rights, I have the right to say no, you can't put this out. And so the stipulation for me was, if we're going to do this, then we have to do something good about it, and we're going to donate the money to her kids. And so, in a way, this because I did that, it became even more sensational, because I think anybody who wanted to attack us for releasing the song was like, oh, well, the money's going to Dolores' family. Like, this is a good thing.
Right.
And what happened for me was I became famous. And my band members did not.
Yeah.
And my friends, it still kind of hurts. Because Doc was my best friend for 20 years, and like he started to hate me.
Yeah.
And I didn't do anything wrong. And it was started way before the band split up, and like, there would be times where like I still kept that hardcore New York hardcore mentality. So we'd open up for Shinedown and Death Punch, and we'd play Zombie in an arena, and I would jump in the crowd, and I arranged for security to walk me to the merch booth. So I would leave, we'd play, I wouldn't even towel off. No one's ever seen anything like that at these major festivals and these major events. And I just jumped in the crowd and walked right over like a regular person. And then I would sign autographs for an hour. And what happened is that the lines were just we were selling $30,000-$40,000 worth of merch.
Wow.
And we were going on when doors opened, and we were ending like that. So,
and that's something about you that I've always felt like you've connected with your fans. Like, you want to take the selfies, you want to sign the autographs, you want to connect. That makes you different, because there's some artists, that are just like, nope, I'm going to hide on the tour bus all day long. When did you get that mentality of like, look, people are people, and I'm going to take care of my fans? Bro,
because the difference between me and most people is what has happened to me. Like in the story, Remember When, like my brother killed me, and I was in the whole video is my story. My mother held my hand and watched her son die. And the last thing I said before I died was, God, please not today. And I got another chance. So from like, who the fuck do I think I am to say no to somebody who wants to take a picture? Like, fuck, I shouldn't even be here. I shouldn't even be here. And so I think those traumatic experiences, they change. You can't be the same after that, right? It's like, my dad got blown up in Vietnam, and he got hit with mortar rounds the second time. That's how he got sent home. He got shot twice first and went right back in the fucking bush like after he got out of the hospital.
It's crazy.
And so like that whole, it's like, he used to say, if you can get just 15 seconds of happiness, take it. And who am I to deprive somebody else of that? If and I have I have fucking bad days, bro. I've been in therapy for almost 20 years. I've been in recovery for 14. I dealt with severe suicidal thoughts and ideations from the time I was 12. I was born a crack baby. My mother was a junkie and abandoned us. And I got adopted into another poor family, and they tried the best they could. But this stuff, it follows you, and the only way you kind of deal with it is by having extreme accountability for yourself, and then transmuting it into service. So if me going and talking to people makes them decide to stay another day, then that's what God sent me here to do. Right?
Dude, and to piggyback off what he said, man, like I recently listened to that story you told, man, about that dad that broke in the backstage with his daughter. Dude, it's awesome to hear stuff like that. I mean, not awesome to hear it, but just like, dude, there's rock stars out there that actually like interact with people and want to make sure their mental health is okay, man. It's just awesome.
It's not. It's like, look, it's like I said in the interview on Jay Cutler's podcast. I'm like, I used to be a crackhead and sleep on a mattress. Like, the fact that I became somebody that people it gives them hope. I already won. I'm literally not even supposed to be here, dude. Like, so I it's funny. Like, I look at my former band members and like, they really wanted, I think the thing they hated the most about me was how much other people loved me. And it was so weird because they tried so hard to paint a different picture of who I am. And they exhausted every means because it was for survival, right? It's like, well, they hated me for getting famous. Nobody wanted to go to the merch booth and do the signings. Nobody wanted to go in the studio and record the songs. It's like the chicken who made the bread. You ever read that book when you were a kid?
Oh, yeah.
And the farm. Nobody wants to help, but everyone wants to eat the bread. And that was my experience. And then, when you take the bread away, the hammer comes down on you. You're like, I don't really feel like sharing this with you anymore. And I think I just want to be on my own. Like the song Lifeline I wrote. And the song is literal. The lyrics, they changed, but when it's like, I don't know if I can carry this on my own, it's the portion of the self-realization that I'm doing everything. And like, no one, like, it's like, I wish someone would help, and it's like, nobody even cares. And they're just, I kind of set things up so that nobody had to worry. But then everyone's taking a piece. And then I'm getting yelled at because people don't have the same opinions as me. So it's very easy for somebody, and I think that people who are dependent on others and can't take care of themselves, just like addicts of any kind, it's easy to like socialism when you can't take care of yourself because you want the state to take care of you. You want daddy and mommy to take care of you, or you want the boss to take care of you. And you see other people who are, while you're playing video games or scrolling on the internet, there are other people who are working 10 times harder because you're not helping. And then they're mad at you for winning, and we have like this kind of weird, in the music industry, there's a lot of that because I know who does the work. Breaking Benjamin is called Breaking Benjamin because there's one guy that does all the work,
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Ben and how much of a perfectionist he is inside of that studio,
Yeah.
and I've heard he's crazy about it.
But you know what? That's why he gets the big bucks. Same thing with Trent Reznor. Rob Zombie. It's called Rob Zombie. It's called Marilyn Manson. It's called Ozzy Osbourne. So so for me, like, it's sad the way that things went down. I prayed for all these guys. I forgave them, but I'm still getting heat. The dudes, they put out a single a couple weeks ago, and I didn't know. I don't particularly care. And DL's wife went on a tirade talking shit about me, and I didn't realize who it was till I saw her last name, and I'm like, ma'am, excuse me, ma'am, but I'm like, did you not see that I asked millions of my fans to pray for your husband when he got blood clots? Because you had to cancel 2 tours in Europe and the U.S. because he has blood clots from whatever, I don't know what. And despite any kind of negativity I could harbor towards anybody, I don't wish anyone ill will or death or any of that shit. And I was like, so, you're yelling at me, that she basically was insinuating that I had brainwashed the entire audience into being conservative and that now that's the only reason why the band isn't successful. And I was like, listen, Chris quit the band. Max quit the band. Doc is about to announce that he's quitting the band to join Ice Nine Kills permanently. There's nobody left but the bass player and the drummer. I'm like, and on top of it, your husband made an entire record. Even songs that I wrote that were perfect, I sold them to them in the settlement. Like Wildfire, could have been a hit song. Lifeline could have been a hit song. When I'm Gone is a song about my attempted suicide. Fine, here you go. They wanted to buy it. Yeah, I wrote all these songs for them, and I gave them to them. And I was like, he just put out another new song. I'm like, maybe the people don't like the songs because they're not good.
Right. People
Right,
aren't
yeah.
listening to music and going, I don't like that. His views, someone listens to his music. It's music. People put on music they like to listen to. I mean, that's just
Well,
a fact.
Yeah, no.
they're-
Look, if it's a good song, it's a
Yeah,
good song.
I'm
It will
jamming.
resonate. If it's not a good song, then people move on. I mean, people get to decide whether it's a good song or not.
I got to
So-
bring something up to you real quick, though, man, because you brought up a word. And, I got to bring it up to you. So, so I asked on our Facebook who we should bring on. My sister-in-law asked. She was like, "You should try to get Tommy Vext." And I got to be honest, dude, I was shocked how quick you responded back. You're very, very cool of you to do this. But you said the word video games, and I got to ask you, because that is by far my favorite cover I have heard in my entire life, dude, is when you cover Lana Del Rey.
Oh, nice, man. I
That
appreciate
is
it.
crazy. That I'm shocked that you know that you like that kind of music. To be honest with you, that cover is just amazing.
Oh, I listen to everything, and then I don't know how to go. So how do I even get into this story? So I met. So this is a long So my ex-girlfriend, one of my exes in New York, was she was sober, and her sober sister was a woman named Elizabeth Grant. Elizabeth gave her a demo tape, and she and my ex loved the song. And like one night we were coming back from dinner, and she brought a bottle of wine home, and we slow danced to this song, and that was like probably the beginning of our relationship. So it was a very romantic, song was Video Games. Couple months later, Lana Del Rey is born.
No,
And I'm like, oh, I know that song. That's Liz's song. And
no,
and then I got her album, and I was like, holy shit, like this is fucking amazing.
yeah,
And then I knew Dan, who was the producer he was also, everybo's in recovery. So I knew him, and I went to go see her at Irving Plaza, and I was just like, oh, this girl's like, she's not like a powerhouse vocalist. She's just an incredible lyricist and has this like haunting allure in her voice.
agreed. Yeah,
I grew up with Fiona Apple and Lilith Fairbanks. Like I listened to everything from like Otis Redding to Pantera to Meshuggah to Sarah McLachlan.
To Wu-Tang.
Yeah, to Wu-Tang. Like, I'm an equal opportunity listener. I think diversity in music is important, especially if you're an artist. This is probably the primary reason why a lot of the younger metal bands all sound like carbon copies, because they only listen to their own stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, so I did that. I wound up doing that song, and I remember. So now we're fast forwarding like 8 years later. I record the song, and I didn't know if it was good. And this is while I was in Bad Wolves, and I sent it to my friend who was going through a breakup, and she called me crying, and I was like, "All right, that's the song." So, and it would have been all those songs would have been Bad Wolves songs because everything I did was marketed as Bad Wolves. But we wound up splitting, and those are the songs that I got.
If you would have released Video Games with Bad Wolves, dude, oh my god, that'd have been crazy.
Yeah,
do you do that? Do you do that on tour when you go out?
I haven't done that one. I've done the Linkin Park version of Crawling.
That's super good too. Yeah.
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 Super
And
dope.
so, look, the whole reason behind, people need to understand, like, oh, it's a cover. I'm like, look, I only recorded those songs because I had to keep food on the table for my band, right? In 2020, again, like, I owned multiple companies. Like, I just, the music industry does not pay enough money for me to be comfortable. I like flying, first class. I come from poverty. I like having a nice place to live, and I pay all my mother's bills. I pay for where my sister lives. I take care of the people in my family. So being in a band is not enough money for me to continue that lifestyle of taking care of my family. It's a good vehicle to get attention, which I use to get more money from like social media endorsements and stuff. But at the end of the day, when the pandemic happened, like if we didn't tour, I was like, well, like I haven't toured in 2 years. I make like 30 or 40 grand a month. Like, and I don't say this like to be a dick. I literally bust my ass relentlessly. You know what I mean? I don't rest. And I'm not one of those people. I can't. And so when the pandemic happened, this was right before OnlyFans took off, and everyone went from Patreon to OnlyFans. And I was like, I see an opportunity here. So I called up Patreon. I was like, hey, I'm multi-platinum selling artist. I would like to start a Patreon for my band. We need to get visibility. I want to start putting music up on here. Can you show me how to do the streaming player or whatever? Called the record label, called management, put everybody together. The band hated this idea. They were like, this is for porn. And I was like, no, it's not. I'm like, what, we're going to, and then I went in the studio and I had already done video games. And so then I had already done Last Resort because Jacoby actually asked me to record that.
Oh, it's dope.
And they used a snippet of me singing it to promote the Papa Roach tour that we opened up for. Wow. So I had a couple of these things laying around. So I really liked Post Malone at the time, and he had just done that song with Ozzy. So I went in and I did Hollywood is Bleeding.
That's so good too. We
started the Patreon. It was $10 a month. 3,000 or 4,000 people signed up, and we were back in business. So over 10 months, we grossed about $400,000. And every Friday, I put out a new song. So while everyone was goofing off during COVID, sitting around, I was in the studio and I had to go in one room. They didn't want to get COVID, so they were in the control room, and I was in the vocal booth, and I used the other entrance, and we all fucking had to do the mask thing. And I'm like, I'm not doing this, and I'm like, I'll be in here, and they wipe down the microphone with Clorox after, and I'm like, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And so we would record a few songs a week and then just roll them out. And I didn't keep that money. The record label, we gave them 20%. So they were stoked. And then all the guys in the band, I kept the same guys that were like, fuck this guy. I kept them on salary. So they never missed a paycheck. And they never had to worry about paying rent. They never had to worry about food. They got paid literally as they had never stopped touring. So I kept everyone on salary. The crew guys stayed on salary.
And you're out here just still doing it. You dropped something new today on Facebook. I just saw it, man.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, what I'm doing is, in the last year I put out Grand Theft Audio. On iTunes, I came in number 3, right? So it was like Five Finger, I Prevail, and Lone Wolf, and then on Christmas Eve, I dropped the 2 cover albums finally. So I dropped those back to back. I had released singles, but I finally just did drop them. And on iTunes, they went, it was number 1 and number 2 in America. It was number 1 in Sweden. It was top 20 in UK, top 20 in Australia, number 5 in Germany, number 5 in Italy, number 2 in Bulgaria, random shit. and it was all from TikTok.
Yeah, so you're killing TikTok, dude. It's I think we talked about this with Adrian as well about TikTok, and he's like, I didn't crack the code, and we didn't know you were for sure yet. And I was like, Tommy's got it figured out. Sure.
TikTok is free. I just did a fucking $40,000 campaign on a song, and it's great. You're on the radio. It's cool. I'm talking to all my old radio friends again, and people are taking note. But when I put a clip of "Take Me to Church" on TikTok for 15 seconds. I made $50,000 in 48 hours as opposed to spending $40,000. There's absolutely, unequivocally no way to justify. And that's the thing that's scary. The major labels don't. This is the thing. Nobody knows. People don't understand how to use social media, right? I was so good at Instagram that the label went and called and had me banned. They put, I know for a fact. I did a whole background check on this. I did it. It cost about $250,000 to have my Instagram taken down because no one could compete with me in the marketplace. I had the biggest social media, and 100% of all of my followers were real. You look and I could call people out, but I don't need to.
Oh shit!
But motherfuckers have fake followers, right? I'd post a clip of me singing in the studio, and it's got 2 million views, and somebody in a bigger band with 10 times the followers as me gets 10,000 views. And I'm like,
What? Okay, so when is the new music is
You know,
coming out on the app? You're gonna beta test it, and
the new album's called Gods and Monsters. My biography is called What's in Your Head, The Life and Death of Tommy Vext. It was co-written by Darnell Riley Perez. It's going to be his third book. Darnell is a friend of mine. He came on tour with Bad Wolves to write the book. He was behind the scenes for everything. He saw everything go down. He did an excellent job of capturing my life story in a way that is tangible and for a reader. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I could have wrote it myself, but I've never written a book before. And I'm like, this guy works with a rock. He writes on Ballers. Like, I'm going to just hire this guy. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's probably going to be much better if I get a professional.
so you got the book, you got the app, you got the book, you got the music. Hulu documentary after that, or what's up?
Well, I can't really say, but there is a major label that was actually talking about doing a documentary about my life, but that won't be anytime. Yeah. So,
What about tour? Can people expect to see you on tour anytime soon here?
yeah, I'm gonna go out and do select dates at the end of the year. I think I signed with Sound Talent Management, not Sound Talent. I'm with FM Management and Sound Talent Group booking agents, so they have like Lamb of God and all these other bands. So we're probably looking at shows late November, early December. And then when I get back from the holidays, I'm probably going to do February, March.
Hopefully we can get Tommy Vext to get through here, man, and put on a show, because I know we love it, man. But hey, seriously, dude, thanks so much for
I'm down, man.
jumping on, man.
Yeah,
so
thanks for having me, man.
We appreciate it, man, so much.
Yeah, let me know when you get all the stuff, and I'll repost it and share it with everybody.
Man, we appreciate it, man. So absolutely, man. It's Tommy Vext, man.
Thank you,
Thanks so much, bro.
Until the